Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Chapter 11. Please design the item. A blank blueprint appeared in front of me. I was baffled. Design? How do I do that? I then knew what I should have done. Rather than visualize modern weapons such tanks and jet fighters, I needed to design a sword. Wasn't it just a matter of the shape? I thought hard and started drawing on the blueprint with my finger. A correction effect seemed to be applied, as the picture perfectly displayed my thoughts. I have to make it cool. First, the length of the blade was 2 m and the width was 80 centimeters. The thickness was 8 centimeters. The length of the handle was set at 40 centimeters. This is the appearance of a great sword that can be seen anywhere. The finished picture showed the limits of my impoverished imagination. I pondered for a moment before thinking of a good idea. I changed the shape of the blade to something curved like a scimitar and then extended the length of the blade to 3 m. Is this okay? I liked the finished picture. It was like I was looking at a large scimitar with a short handle. At the same time, it had the heavy weight of a great sword. It is reminiscent of a shark's profile. The part of the blade is like a shark fin, and the end of the handle is a shark tail. I admired the finished work for a while. I have made something sophisticated and cool. It gave the impression of a swimming shark. If I held it, some people might have the mistaken impression that I was carrying a shark and be shocked. I didn't know I would be so good at designing. Once I make money and pay back the debt, I should change my major to design. I felt great satisfaction as I clicked on the OK button at the bottom of the blueprint. Have you decided? When you complete the blueprint, the number of available creations from the creation skill will decrease by 1. Once I replied, numbers and languages quickly covered the blueprint. Figures were being calculated. It seemed that the system was calculating the details that I lacked in my design. After a while, an improved and completed design appeared. A bunch of jargon and complicated numbers covered the blueprint. I could fully understand the jargon and numbers on the blueprint. I looked at the design contents and checked if there were any faults. It was amazing. I understood that contents of an item design that I had never even seen or studied. The class compensation effect. It was really great. I felt like an actual great blacksmith. As I was admiring it, a notification window popped up. Please describe the characteristics of the item. That's right. Finally, the most important part is left. I was excited. This is an outstanding weapon. The attack power is 1 million, no, it is more than 10 million and the weight is only 1. There is no level requirement. There is an option to absorb health with every attack. Can cause meteors to fall. The enemy will unconditionally die from one hit. Of course, defense is ignored. Anyway, this weapon is enough to hunt a dragon alone. That isn't possible. The performance and options of an item can't be arbitrarily set. The performance and options are determined by taking into account the materials used, the design, and the description of the features. Too bad. I tried to make the explanation as good as possible. It is a great sword, but thanks to its unusual shape, its cutting power is tremendous. The protruding part that resembles a shark's fin will allow for unexpected attacks, and can even go through armor. Blue orichalcum is used as the material, so it is light and durable. Well, that will be enough. Was my vocabulary so lacking? I was horribly ashamed. In the first place, I only knew that blue orichalcum was light and durable. I didn't know the exact information, so I can't explain the merits. Then, just suddenly, I felt like the back of my head was hit with a hammer. It was a belated epiphany, but if I was designing this with blue orichalcum as the material, wouldn't I need blue orichalcum to make the item? I'm screwed. A level 200 boss monster dropped the material, while I was only level -3. I could buy it from other people, but that wasn't easy because the supply was small and the price was huge. It meant the design I made could become obsolete. Cancel. Skill cancel. Clear everything. The completion of the blueprint has already destroyed one of the available creation skill users. Even if you cancel the skill now, the number of times it can be used won't be restored. Do you still want to cancel it? No. This was bad. It was a mistake in my thinking. It was a skill that should be used carefully after thorough investigation and thinking. Please name the item. Shit. Have you decided on shit? What nonsense are you saying? Please wait. Geez, what is this? I didn't worry about it for too long. Failure. Have you decided on failure? Yes, it was a failure that shouldn't have been created in the first place. I was saddened at the number of times I could use the skill. Decreasing, but a hologram of the items was listed in the drafts. Failure. Rating, unique legendary. Unique rating information. Durability, 699/699. Attack power, 733 1,621 defense, 50. Asterisk agility plus 30. Asterisk there is a low probability of blocking the enemy's attacks. Asterisk there is a certain probability of activating the 5-joint attacks skill. Asterisk there is a high probability of activating the cutting skill. Asterisk there will be a fear effect if the enemy is more than 20 levels lower than the user. Asterisk attack power plus 20% in dark places. Legendary rating information. Durability, 1,090/1,090. Attack power, 874 1,820 defense, 80. Asterisk agility plus 50. Asterisk there is a certain probability of activating the 5-joint attack skill. Asterisk the skill bisect will be created. It is designed by a legendary blacksmith. It is a great sword, but its cutting ability is excellent because of its unique shape. It resembles the predator of the sea, a shark, and gives fear to the enemies. The small blades spiking from the sword will increase the defense. Blue orichalcum is used as a material. Its lightness means the attack speed doesn't fall. Due to the nature of the blue orichalcum, it becomes stronger in the dark. User restriction, level 300 or higher. More than 5,000 strength. Advanced sword mastery level 8 or higher. Weight, 550. Hiccup. Amazing. It was a master weapon, not a failure. A one-of-a-kind item in this world. And I was the one who created this item. I couldn't believe it. Isn't this huge? The words automatically emerged from my stunned mouth. Yes, I could be rich. If I went into more debt and bought blue orichalcum, I could make failure and put it on the trading site. Then the price of the item would skyrocket. Then I could pay all my debts and still have a lot of money left. Truly a legendary blacksmith. It was literally the goose that laid the golden egg. Then that feeling sank as I read the stats and options of the completed failure. I checked the usage conditions attached at the end. It needs level 300. 2 days ago, I heard that the level of the first ranked person on the unified rankings was estimated to be around 250. Then 300. That wasn't the only problem. 5,000 strength. 10 stat points were gained with every level. Even if a person invested all of their points into strength for every level up, it would be almost impossible to have 5,000 strength at level 300, even with titles and equipment that raised their stats. There are classes that receive extra strength, but it isn't common. In the first place, who would be idiotic enough to invest all of their points in strength? Finally, there was the advanced sword mastery level 8. Currently, the first-ranked blacksmith had intermediate level skills. I couldn't predict how long it would take for people to get advanced sword master level 8. Even if I managed to make failure, nobody would be able to use it in the near future. This meant that selling it was impossible. My dream of making a fortune was shattered in an instant. As the name suggested, failure was a failure. Then that's it? There is no springtime in my life. Shit. I was frustrated but quickly corrected my mindset. Then I tried to deduce why such exorbitant usage conditions were attached to the item I created. It wasn't difficult to come to a conclusion. It was a mistake to try and make it unconditionally good. The development team of Satisfy had caught the hearts of the world, so they wouldn't be that easy. Failure wasn't an item that could be acquired randomly through hunting or a raid. It was a production item that could be produced indefinitely if there were enough materials. It was likely that the system placed restrictions on the game items in order to maintain the game balance. Those restrictions were in the usage conditions. An acceptable performance. Isn't this the most important thing about the creative skills? The creation skill had a limited number of uses. It had to be used with care. I decided to seal the creation skill. If I created and sold superior items that didn't destroy the balance, I would be able to earn a lot of money quickly and pay off my debt. However, I didn't want to rush it. I wanted to see it as the ultimate weapon to use for myself before encountering a difficult quest or a strong enemy. The creation skill is for me. If I am in a crisis situation, I can create an item that can break through the situation. As a simple example, if I encountered a boss monster capable of causing tremendous fire damage, I could create and build an item that greatly increased my fire resistance properties before the raid. If I didn't create items for sale, I didn't have to worry about the usage conditions. One of the biggest advantages of Pygma's Descendant was that there was no restriction on the items I could wear. If I created items with a fraudulent power like failure, I could show the highest power among existing items, even if the penalty was attached. After I cleared my mind, I checked how to make failure. The materials were also a problem. In order to produce failure, I needed a huge supply 15 blue orichalcum ore. Even the handle is made with blue orichalcum. It was a mistake to choose only blue orichalcum as the material. If I used other materials as well, the number of blue orichalcum ore required would be reduced. I saw failure's tremendous options, so I was filled with the desire to produce and use it right away. If I could get my hands on failure, I would be able to demonstrate a fearful combat power. But it was impossible to obtain blue orichalcum. Let's get rid of this vain regret. No, wait. Can I participate in the Guardian of the Forest raid party? The person recruiting party members said that level was irrelevant. I remembered the Guardian of the Forest raid party and headed back to the center of the square. Then I walked up to the black man with the ID Toban. I would like to participate in the raid. Chapter 12. If not now, I didn't know when I would be able to join a Guardian of the Forest raid party in the future. Please let me join the party. I would join the party, survive until the Guardian of the Forest died and pick up all the blue orichalcum that dropped. It didn't matter if the other party members died. Anyway, my experience can't drop if I die. If I were really unlucky, then I might drop Mammon's greatsword or Mengel's plate armor, which made up my entire fortune. But if I took the risk, I might be able to obtain blue orichalcum. I expressed my strong emotions when I gazed at Toban. Was I too brazen? Did I have any sense of shame? I looked up to see Toban looking at me with a perplexed expression. What is your level? What? Didn't you say that level and class doesn't matter? I did say that at first, but unexpected party members arrived, so I am now looking for those who are over level 120, preferably those with divine magic or magician professions. As you may know, the guardian of the forest is a monster whose body is made of minerals, so physical attacks won't work on it. Toban stared at my great sword with an unconvinced look, a gaze that strongly conveyed that he didn't want to accept me into the party. Then this guy shouldn't have said that he would take any level or class. Should I give up? No, I couldn't give up when thinking about the blue orichalcum. I would join the party no matter what. Please accept me. I won't hold you back. I was currently level -3, but due to Mammon's greatsword and Mengel's plate armor, my actual combat ability was above level 30. If I confessed that I was level 30, I would be kicked out straight away. 30, no, minus, no, plus 100. 30 minus, plus 100. No. Just 100. I was currently level -3, but I would have been close to level 100 if it weren't for Ashur's quest. Let's try it once. When I actually entered the party, I didn't intend to fight. Instead, I would follow like I was a dead mouse. If I'm careful, they won't notice that I deceived them about my level. Toban had a worried expression on his face. Your weapon is a great sword? Isn't it around level 65? Even if your item has an epic rating, claiming to be level 100. Are you really level 100? Of course I am. My Mammon's greatsword has been strengthened to +5, so I can still use it. My face was still. I was just bluffing. I exploited the fact that items enhanced below +5 wouldn't have a change in appearance, so I lied. That the +0 Mammon's greatsword was actually +5. But Toban wasn't easy to pass. Even if Mammon's greatsword is +5, to still use it at level 100 is. In addition, your armor isn't as good as the equipment that level 100 users can wear. Besides, where are your boots, gauntlets, and accessories? It was accurate. Mengel's plate armor, which I was currently wearing, was only level 60. My helmet, boots, gauntlets, and accessories were all lost by the end of the 3 months quest. Items that are like my blood. In the case of the boots and gauntlets, they were destroyed because I didn't manage the durability. I managed the durability of my helmet and accessories, but it was unfortunate that I dropped them when I died. As I recalled the hellish past, Toban looked at me suspiciously. I said, the only people who don't need armor and accessories are those with excellent control over their weapons, like me. In fact, I remove this armor whenever I hunt. I only arm myself with the greatsword on hunts. Control was a word that didn't apply to me, as I drank potions like I drank water whenever I hunted. When I watched the hunters on TV, I saw them exquisitely take advantage of the monsters' gaps, firing off powerful skills as they avoided the attacks of monsters. Meanwhile, I just took random potshots and drank potions whenever my health was low. That was my hunting method. But right now, I needed to bluff to enter the raid party. Therefore, I quoted the remark I heard about control. However, that was a big mistake. Toban's body was fully armed with heavy armor and a shield. HOH, so people who wear armor aren't skilled. He was smiling, but his eyes were cold. He was seriously angry. The problem was that the other party members around were also filled with righteous indignation. You make it sound like wearing armor and accessories is a bad thing. Listen to him, he never wears armor. Those who wear armor and accessories aren't authentic. If we don't want to be ignored, we should take it off. I tried to calm down the angry people who were talking sarcastically. That's too much. I didn't mean anything bad, I was just explaining why I am less dependent on defense. Anyway, that means that I shouldn't be armed. Your level is lower than mine. A wild-looking, hairy middle-aged person interrupted with a shout. He was equipped with 2 shining axes, armor, and gorgeous ornaments, looking completely like a high-level user. He looked angrier than all the others. Grid. This is the first time I've seen you. Have you done any hunting at the hunting grounds around here? I know how powerful the monsters in this area are. You sure must be confident if you're bragging about hunting them without armor. The other party members nodded. Based on his words, he must be a newbie to this area. Have you ever seen someone called Grid? I've never seen him at a nearby hunting ground. How about you? Honestly, it sounds like crap. I think he is actually lower than level 100. Looking at him now, it seems like he died and dropped his items on a lone hunt. Maybe his intentions to enter the party are impure. He already has nothing to lose, so the atmosphere was getting worse. Sharp people. What now? Should I give up on the party? As I was feeling confused, a blonde-haired man with his upper body revealed appeared and intervened. Everybody stop. The party members became excited at the man's appearance. First place in the martial artist rankings, Regis. The equipment items requirements are so severe that raising the level is difficult, yet he is already over level 180. His nickname is Taekwon Master, Taekwon Master. Is it true that a mob will melt when hit by his fists? Wow. He really came. I did well to join this party. Martial artists ignore defense to attack the weak point. Can't this technique inflict huge damage to the guardian of the forest? Regis caught my eye and approached me. A great sword is very slow and has wide movements, so it isn't easy to take evasive actions during battle. Therefore, it is amazing that you are hunting without wearing armor. Regis was good-looking, slim, and had ideal muscles. Due to the nature of his class, he was popular with women because he didn't wear any tops. In fact, when I looked closer at him, I saw that he was, in fact, very handsome. I felt like a squid standing next to him. I instinctively hated handsome people, so I replied bluntly, "It isn't a big deal." HOH, it isn't a big deal. My expectations about your skills have increased. I would love to directly see your amazing abilities. Regis said to the others, "This guy will also join the party." Originally, it was a party that had no limits on class or level. Some of the party members are below level 90, so I don't think there's a problem in accepting one more level 100 user. But people still responded poorly, so Regis added, "As you know, only level 170 or higher users can hit the Guardian of the Forest properly. Nevertheless, the reason why I gathered as many people as possible without a level limit is that people are needed to mark the golems constantly summoned by the Guardian of the Forest. The Guardian of the Forest will be dealt with by my 17 guild members, including Toban and Vantner. We want people to tie up the feet of the crystal golems while we focus on the Guardian of the Forest. I think that Grid's skills are sufficient for our wishes. He wants to join the party, so I don't know why we should refuse. I can understand you doubting his actions, but why do you doubt people beforehand?" The remarks of a strong person were reputable. Once Regis spoke, the party members had an atmosphere like they would accept me into the party. But they had impure intentions. Let's see how well his control is. Watch him fighting. We will see if he's a braggart or not. He said that he fights with his armor off? Then he can't wear his armor on this raid. I will watch him closely. A party filled with intense hostility. This wasn't a Guardian of the Forest raid party, but a Grid raid party. I can't join this party. If I join the party now, I would have to fight in front of them. As a level -3 player, I would surely die quickly and not even see the Guardian of the Forest, let alone see the blue orichalcum. It would also come with extra embarrassment involved. It's okay. I won't join the party. I stepped back, causing the middle-aged man to laugh. Were you just bluffing? An attitude that ignored people. But I didn't get angry because his words were true. I replied coldly, it isn't a good idea to join a party with people who don't trust me. Originally, party members should be able to trust each other with their backs. However, everyone here doubted me. The party members were forced to accept my words. Well, that is true. Come to think of it, we were so excited that we drove him to the other end. I agree. I didn't know if it was the truth, so I should have just stayed silent. That's right. Actually, weren't we the ones who committed the sin? I feel bad now. I didn't hold on to the party members any longer and left this place. Regis followed me. What is it? My attitude was cold, but Regis just asked for a handshake with a gentle smile. I hope to see you again next time, great sword warrior who doesn't use armor. As a person who walks along the path of a martial artist, I am very interested in you. I didn't doubt that he was interested in me. I didn't think it was a bluff as I gazed into his honest eyes. I shook hands with him and thought, why is he so naive? He was a good person. If I had a chance someday, I would make him a friend that I could borrow money from. Then I'll see you again. Take money from him later. No, I owed him. Therefore, I said goodbye to Regis with a big smile, headed straight to the smithy. Chapter 13. I only had 3 gold and 11 silver. I had to make items and sell them to people in order to earn enough to use the carriage. Once I saved up enough money, I could buy some blue orichalcum ore and make failure. However, saving money was as hard as plucking the stars from the night skies. The moment I set foot in the smithy, the effect of mastering Blacksmith's craftsmanship skill is activated. Blacksmith NPCs with craftsmanship skill beyond the intermediate level will treat you in a friendly manner. Pygma's Descendant class effect is activated. Blacksmith NPCs with advanced level craftsmanship skills will recognize and worship you. This was a hidden feature. It meant I could readily obtain the desired production methods from blacksmiths. Wow! The Pygma's Descendant class, the most I experienced it, the more I liked it. At first, I disliked it because it was a production class. However, it truly was a legendary class. I joyfully entered the smithy and found a blacksmith sweating in front of a hearth. I want to make and sell the most profitable item with the greatest demand. What is that item? Please give me a recommendation. I smiled brightly. I am Pygma's Descendant, someone who has mastered the blacksmith's craftsmanship skill. Feel appreciation towards me, worship me, and hand over the appropriate crafting method. But the next development went against my expectations. Instead of the worshipping, the blacksmith gazed at me with cold eyes. Bah, a kid wants to talk about this subject. I don't want to talk to a rude and incompetent person like you, so get out. This was an ordinary NPC's attitude towards level 1 users. He didn't recognize me. An intermediate or advanced blacksmith would instantly recognize me, but the blacksmith here didn't know me. It meant that he was a low-level blacksmith who hadn't even reached the intermediate level. Ah, you. I met a lousy person. I wanted to go to another blacksmith, but this was the only smithy in the village. I expected this to be easy due to the notification window. But it was in vain. I forgot how unlucky I was. Damn it. It couldn't be helped. I hurriedly changed my attitude and respectfully spoke to the blacksmith. You were so passionate about your work that I was afraid to disturb your concentration. Therefore, I wanted to quickly get to the point. Did I sound rude? If so, please forgive me. Huh, I see. You have learned strange manners. The blacksmith looked at me with interest. I stood as politely as possible, like a man engaged in a service job. I am Grid. I would like to learn how to make items. The blacksmith snorted. Bah, do you think anyone can learn how to make items? A child like you should start from firewood. No, not even. If you sincerely want to learn how to make items from me, you should go to the backyard and obtain firewood. You should be thankful that I am letting you do this. How expected from a lowly blacksmith. Huh? Did you say something just now? No. I was the one feeling regret now. The only person I could depend on in this village was a lowly blacksmith. If I was kicked out from here without learning how to make items, I would have to save money while doing restaurant chores or working in the fields until I gathered enough for the carriage. I'll chop the firewood. How much do I need? The blacksmith gave me an old axe and said, as much as you can. Chop firewood. Difficulty, E. Blacksmith Smith has given you an errand to chop firewood. If you can finish this task well, Smith will look upon you in a more favorable light. Quest clear conditions, 500 pieces of firewood. Quest reward, affinity with Smith plus 10, experience plus 10, 20 bronze. Quest failure, affinity with Smith -10. Wow, it's a normal quest window this time. After starting Ashure's quest, I only received S-grade or SS grade quests, so receiving a normal quest felt like my mind was cleansed. I need 20 experience until my next level up. If I complete this quest, my experience bar will fill up by half. There was no change in the amount of experience needed to level up from -3 or -1. The amount of experience needed for minus levels seemed to be 20 points. In other words, at the minus level, I could raise my level just by doing these miscellaneous quests. First of all, I need to escape from the minus level. I thought positive thoughts and headed to the backyard with the axe. After checking the trees piled up on one side, I looked at the axe in my hand. It was an old axe. Could this old axe be used to chop firewood? Rather, I'm worried that the axe will be shattered upon hitting the tree. He might be angry if I break his axe, so I have to be careful. I decided to use the legendary blacksmith's appraisal skill on the old axe. Appraisal. The blacksmith who becomes a legend that appraises items with an excellent discerning eye. If a hidden feature exists in the target item, it will be found. Smith's old axe. Rating, normal. Durability, 6/6 attack power, 4/7. An axe that the blacksmith Smith has used since he was young. It was well made and is very old, but still cuts well. The durability is weak, so there is a danger that it will be destroyed. Weight, 40. No hidden functions exist. It was an ordinary axe, save for the fact that it was very old. I felt relief, rather than disappointment, that the item didn't have a hidden function. I had gone through so many incidents lately that I missed ordinary things. You have grasped the materials that make up Smith's old axe, the production method, and the intentions of its creator. Your understanding of Smith's old axe is now at 100%. You can use Smith's old axe perfectly. You have learned how to make an axe. Thanks to his passive skill, he perfectly understood the item and new notification windows popped up. I got 100% understanding straight away. It seemed that items with low ratings could reach the maximum understanding just by using appraisal on them. Indeed, it would be funny if a legendary blacksmith looked at a normal axe and couldn't understand its production method. There are no conditions of use, so I don't think an increased understanding is useful. The advantage is that the axe production method is gained. A penalty would occur if I equipped an item that I didn't meet the conditions of. The understanding of an item was just a skill that played a role in reducing the penalty. Smith's old axe was an item that didn't have a usage penalty, so there were no advantages to the 100% understanding, except for the addition of the production method. I didn't feel much inspiration, but I placed the axe to one side and set up a log. I thought about spitting into my hands and rubbing them together, like the old man in historical dramas. There is no need for physical power when chopping firewood. I just need to go along the grain. It was knowledge I picked up from somewhere, but I didn't know exactly what it meant by following the grain. It was simply knowledge that couldn't be applied. However, there was no need to worry. Couldn't I just cut the piece of wood like I would cut a monster with my great sword? It is like using swordsmanship on a tree. I picked up the axe I had put aside. The moment I was about to chop the log, a solid black line was drawn near the center of the log. What is this? Strange. I watched it for a moment before putting the axe down, watching the black line disappear like it was a lie. I picked up the axe again. The black line soon reappeared. It felt like the axe was telling me to hit the black line. This is the effect of 100% understanding. It was a possible interpretation, but I couldn't be sure. I avoided the black line and hit the middle of the log with the axe. Yuck. Although I struck down with all my might, the axe failed and stopped halfway through the log. Chopping it in one go had failed. A notification window popped up stating that the durability of the axe had decreased by 1. This humiliation. I couldn't even chop firewood. I was useless here as well. I felt frustrated as I barely managed to pull out the axe stuck in the log. Then I threw the half-split piece of wood to the side and picked up a new log. This time, I gazed at the black line and swung the axe. Truck. The moment the axe touched the solid line, a light sound was made and an exhilarating feeling could be felt. The log was split in half. Without any resistance. Oh. I was forced to admire the effect of understanding the item, finally realizing the importance of understanding. This is what it meant by handling the item perfectly. The benefit of increasing item understanding isn't just reducing the penalties or learning how to make the item. There was an expression about treating items as another limb. If I raised a sword's understanding to 100%, I could use that sword like it was my own limb. Item understanding could be thought to have the same type of concept as weapons mastery. If I raise the understanding of items I created to 100%, invincible. I had played the game for over a year, but now there was the possibility of entering the rankings. Okay, earn money quickly and pay off my debt. Then I will become a ranker with the power of items. Once I became a ranker, I would receive a staggering amount of requests from various media. I could become a rich person just from the TV performance fees. It came with bonus popularity and fame. No one could ignore me anymore and I would be able to gain the heart of my first love, a Hyung. My motivation shot upwards. Hey-ah. Hat. Hat. Hap. Truck. 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 Ta-da-dak. I didn't rest as I chopped firewood for 2 hours. I couldn't stop because the feeling of success was so thrilling. But the pleasure only lasted for a while. As my level was -3, my poor stamina quickly ran out. My sense of hunger came quickly after. I started getting tired at around the 150th piece of firewood. My breathing became arduous and pained. Should I take a break and rest? No, I wouldn't. The 3 months I spent on Ashure's quest was exceptionally painful and difficult, but I pressed on without giving up. I had experienced such a thing, so I couldn't take a break while chopping firewood. This exhaustion was nothing compared to everything I experienced before. This isn't hard work. Don't rest. Finish quickly and proceed to the next quest. I will level up and make money. I grit my teeth and kept on chopping the firewood. Chapter 14. Once I finished my 280th piece of firewood, my hunger became worse and I started to become dizzy. However, I didn't stop. I wouldn't be me if I gave up at this point. Since childhood, I had never been good at anything. I wasn't smart, wasn't handsome, and my personality wasn't good. I wasn't even good at sports or exercising. I didn't have a special talent in a single field. I had no abilities, felt severe jealousy towards others, and made excuses. I couldn't deny that I was a bad representation of the human race. However, the reason I was able to build amicable relationships in high school was through my persistence. I wasn't very smart. I needed to study several times more than others just to maintain a normal grade. My personality was bad. I often put on a charade that was just as good as the politicians. I wasn't good at exercising. During PE, I was able to play soccer with others. Because I tried diligently. I knew this about myself, so I tried. I did my best to not give up. Thanks to my persistence, I was able to go to university and make it safely through the army. I might be debt-ridden because of Satisfy, but I barely managed to maintain an ordinary life. Anyway, persistence was my strong point. Level, money. I was caught by this obsession and didn't stop moving my axe. I had just chopped the 460th piece of firewood when suddenly, a notification window popped up. Persistence stat has been opened. Surprisingly, it was a new stat. I immediately checked the stat. Persistence. You never give up, even in the face of a difficult task. You won't get tired easily. The possession's weight limit has increased. The feeling of satiation will last for a long time. Asterisk, the higher the number, the higher the effect. Asterisk, stat points can't be distributed to the stat. Asterisk, every time 10 points are gained in the stat, the indomitable stat will increase by 1 point. Wow! I wouldn't tire easily, my weight limit would increase, and satiety would last for a long time. It was truly fantastic. Furthermore, my indomitable stat would go up by 1 with every 10 points in persistence. I have to be persistent to raise the stat. I felt some doubt as I returned to chopping the firewood. I showed a lot more persistence when completing Ashure's quest. Why wasn't the persistence stat created until now? I could only think of it as the difference between a normal rank class and a legendary rank class. It might be the same actions and same effort, but the stat growth rate of a legendary class is higher than a normal class. Once I discovered the new benefits of the legendary class, I forgot all of my fatigue and started to chop the firewood with more determination. Chtuck. Chtuck. As the number of firewood increased, I developed the knack of hitting the firewood. Despite hitting along the grain, the durability of the axe decreased by 1 point every 200 pieces of firewood. However, at a certain point, it no longer decreased and the speed of my chopping accelerated. By the time I finished 1000 pieces of firewood, I had 4 points in the persistence stat. You haven't consumed food in a long time, so all stats have dropped by half. It is easier to become affected by an abnormal state. If you continue to starve, your health will gradually decline. It was a close call. I was lying breathless on the ground. Pant pant. My knees were weak and my arms were heavy. My whole body was screaming in pain, making it hard to move. Despite the compensation from the persistence stat, my -3 level stamina was still poor. I had chopped firewood for only 6 hours, but I was exhausted. I ate the bread and water that I took out of my inventory and looked towards the east where the Grey Forest was located. The raid party should have arrived at the Guardian of the Forest by now. It is good that I didn't join the party. I would have been disgraced if I joined. With my -3 level stamina, I wouldn't even have been able to follow the movement speed of the other party members. How embarrassing. Would it have been if I died from exhaustion, not by a monster? I shook my head as I recalled my premature attempt to join the party. When I think about it, I don't even know the drop rate of blue orichalcum. My thinking was too simple when I tried to join the party. I should think and act more carefully. It felt like I had a small amount of mental growth. After a while, I barely recovered and returned to Smith's smithy. I finished chopping the firewood. I did as much as possible and managed to obtain 1,000 pieces. What? Smith burst out, "Puh ha 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 ha. A newbie like you chopped 1,000 pieces of firewood in 6 hours. You aren't just a newbie, but a liar as well. Are you trying to deceive me?" He laughed like it was funny and glared at me. "Is this person bipolar?" I pointed towards Smith's backyard. "Isn't it too much to lie that I chopped 1,000 firewood in 6 hours? If you don't believe me, why don't you go and check it directly? You don't have to tell me that. If you cheat me, I'll kick you out of here straight away." I followed Smith towards the backyard. After a few moments, Smith's mouth dropped open as he saw the 1,000 firewood piled up on one side. How is this possible? How can someone like you cut 1,000 pieces of firewood so quickly? They're all so perfect. No, the amount of time isn't the problem. You don't have the stamina to chop 1,000 pieces of firewood. Tell me honestly. Where did all this firewood come from? Did it come from Van's carpenter store? Or did you buy it from the woodcutter who lives in the mountains? Foolish guy. I asked you to chop the firewood yourself. What? Why are you framing someone? These are my own logs of firewood. Ridiculous. It can't be. Was this person senile? Why didn't he believe me? I picked up the axe. Smith flinched and stepped back as he saw it in my hands. I set up a log. Tick. My woodcutting technique had reached the peak after chopping 1,000 logs of firewood. As soon as the axe met the wood, a clear sound was heard. It was a thrilling sound that rang through the smithy. Smith marveled at the sound and then looked surprised when he saw the log split neatly in two. After staring blankly, he nodded and opened his mouth. "I thought you were an ordinary newbie, but you've actually worked for a long time in woodworking." "No." "Then, you're a woodcutter." "No." I reached out a hand towards Smith, who was talking nonsense. "First, give me the compensation." "Yes. The work is better than I expected, so I will give you more compensation than I promised." Doubt could still be seen in Smith's eyes, but he pulled out 40 coins. At that moment, the quest completion notification window stated that I received 15 experience points. The way that Smith gazed at me also changed considerably. Before, he had looked at me like a cockroach, and now I was like a mutt on the streets. I was proud. I had felt helpless in the successive S and SS grade quests, so completing a normal quest after a long time gave me a sense of accomplishment. As I was bathing in the afterglow, Smith gave me a pickaxe. "If you climb the mountain, there will be a mine. Gather iron ore from there. As much as possible. Mine iron ore. Blacksmith Smith is suspicious of you. He keeps looking and looking, but Smith can't understand why you are better at chopping firewood than him. Smith has greatly increased the difficulty of the task in order to assess you properly. Quest clear conditions, 80 pieces of iron ore. Quest reward, affinity with Smith plus 30, experience plus 55, 20 bronze. Quest failure, affinity with Smith dash 30. 55 experience. If I cleared the quest, I would go up 3 levels at once and finally get rid of the minus level. I was happy. No, wait. Other people start at level 1, while I'm glad about reaching level 0. I felt strange as I accepted the quest. I'm going now. I placed strength in the hand holding the pickaxe. I had a huge passive skill that was understanding items. If I took advantage of this, the mining job would be done without difficulty. I left the smithy without delay. As I headed to a small mountain in the back of the village, I asked a child passing by, "Kid, do any monsters emerge on that mountain?" Was he 8 years old? The kid with the runny nose shrugged and replied, "Are you really asking that question? How can there be monsters on a mountain attached to the village? My dad says that the Lord's soldiers patrol this area for our safety. So you don't have to be a shivering coward, traveler." See coward? Me. The spiteful expression and nasty tone. A nasty kid who provoked the urge to punish him. As I prepared to rub my fist on the child's head, I saw a big man, probably the child's father, approaching. The man looked between me and the boy with a disapproving expression. "Boy, why are you hanging around that traveler? He looks stupid, so don't associate with him." "Yes." I only replied to him because he looked so pathetic and frustrated. Hoo, my son had to go through a lot of trouble. By the way, how did a traveler like that come to our village? Our village isn't a place that lazy people can enter. That's right. But he asked me a question and I didn't want to be rude. Ha ha ha. Yes. Then let's go to eat. Your mother is waiting. Yes, father. The father and kid walked away. Damn it, now I was being ignored by a kid. It is too much. The NPC's attitude towards me was disturbing. During the level 1 to 10 beginner days, the NPCs didn't show a favorable opinion towards users, but they still taught us and helped us grow. However, they unconditionally ignored me now that I was a minus level. They felt irritated just making eye contact with me. My reputation might have increased by 500 in exchange for discovering Pygma's rare book, as well as the dignity stat after changing classes, but the minus level itself seemed to have the worst affinity with NPCs. Then Doran was a really nice person. I preferred a NPC like Doran, who mistook me for a high level. He forced me to accept the quest, but at least he didn't ignore me. When I think of Doran, I'm reminded of Doran's ring. I still mourn the thought of the loss of Doran's ring. I gazed at the sky for a moment and soothed my mind. I checked my status window before moving to the mountains. Chapter 15. Name, Grid. Level, -3, 15/20. Class, Pygma's Descendant. Asterisk the probability of adding additional options when making items will increase. Asterisk the probability of item enhancement will increase. Asterisk all equipment items can be worn unconditionally. However, the is a penalty depending on the rating of the item. Title, One Who Became a Legend. Asterisk abnormal conditions don't work well on you. Asterisk you won't die when health is at the minimum. Asterisk easily acknowledged. Health, 34/34 mana, 3/3. Strength, 1 + 5 stamina, 1 agility, 1 intelligence, 1 dexterity, 1 persistence, 4 composure, 1 indomitable, 1 dignity, 1 insight, 1 stat points, 0 weight, 3,075/200. Asterisk the weight limit exceeds 200%, so movement speed is reduced by 100%. The body is heavy and cannot exert any power properly. The probability of receiving the weakened state has become really high. It will take a while to climb the mountain with this slow pace. My pace was too slow, despite accelerating at full speed. I wanted to leave all of the items at the warehouse. But there was nothing free in this world. In order to use the warehouse, I had to pay a considerable amount of money. I can't afford to spend my money on a warehouse when I am desperately needing a carriage. Money was money, but there was also the expectation that the act of enduring the slow pace would have an impact on my persistence. Stat. Okay, let's just go. I headed towards the mountain at a slow pace. The distance between the smithy and the mountain wasn't far. Would it take around 30 minutes with the average speed of an adult male? But my movement speed fell by a huge 100%. It took me 1 hour to arrive at the base of the mountain. Phew. I was tired, despite walking even more slowly than others. It was amazing how creatures like turtles and slugs could live with their slow movement speed. After 3 hours, I was barely able to climb to the middle of the mountain. The mountain path was well constructed and the slope wasn't steep, but it took me this long to arrive at the end of the path. It was now dark. I just need to go a little further. The light from the entrance of the mine wasn't far away, but it wasn't easy to reach. My poor stamina was already depleted. Shit. I didn't want to delay arriving at my destination. I barely suppressed my desire to rest and struggled to move on. One step, another step, each step was filled with a heavy weight. It felt like I was walking in deep water while wearing thick cotton clothes. But I went forward. The moment I arrived at the mine, your persistence has risen. As I expected. I laughed as I looked at my rising stat. It felt like I recovered from my tired spirit instantly. While I couldn't raise these stats through leveling up, the ones that grew through certain behaviors gave me a tremendous sense of accomplishment and pleasure, like a drug. It seemed like I would never be able to stop grinding stats for the rest of my life. I entered the mine and literally sat down with joy. I took a break and consumed bread and water, then my stamina slowly recovered. Then shall I start? Appraisal. After judging that I had rested enough, I took out the pickaxe and used the legendary Blacksmith's appraisal skill. Smith's pickaxe. Durability, 19/19, attack power, 7/9. A pickaxe used by the blacksmith, Smith. It was used by Smith to build up his skills. Thanks to the strong durability, Smith collected 120 iron ore in a single day with this pickaxe. Since that day, the miners in this village have acknowledged Smith. A hidden function doesn't exist. You have grasped the materials that make up Smith's pickaxe, the production method, and the intentions of its creator. Your understanding of Smith's pickaxe is now at 100%. You can use Smith's pickaxe perfectly. You have learned how to make a pickaxe. I received a great stimulus after reading the description of the pickaxe. That old man mined 120 iron ores in one day. I received a quest to mine 80 iron ores. There was no time limit. Yes, it would take a few days to gather the 80 iron ores needed to complete the quest. But I couldn't relax after finding out that Smith obtained 120 iron ores in one day. I am going to obtain 200 pieces in one day and then make that old man recognize me. I looked around the mine with the pickaxe in my hand. Red dots glittered all over the walls. I am supposed to hit those spots. As I moved to one red dot, the miners resting on the side discovered me. Hey newbie, why are you holding a pickaxe in your hand? Surely you aren't trying to mine. I am. What? Puhahahat. The miners laughed. Some of them rolled across the floor with tears in their eyes. Another person frowned and said, "Cut it out. A newbie. Like you can swing all day and not even obtain a single iron ore." The others agreed. "You should be glad if you don't break your wrist. We are saying this because we are worried, so just go home." New. B. Yes, laugh now. I didn't respond to them. I would show them with my actions. Kong. Kong. Iron ore has been acquired. The iron ore emerged after I hit the red dot 3 or 4 times. The miners were amazed at the sight. Ah, no. How can he do it so easily? Hey, it's just a coincidence. What, that guy? Why is he so good when he looks so incompetent? Fools. That isn't his skill. The pickaxe is special. One of the whispering miners approached me before reaching out and saying, "That pickaxe, can I try it?" Did they think I was mining using the power of an item because they couldn't recognize my skills? I wanted to see the expressions of the miners change when they realized that my pickaxe was ordinary. So I handed the pickaxe to the miner. "Look carefully. I'll prove that this pickaxe isn't an ordinary one," the miner declared and wielded the pickaxe with confidence. Kakang. Kakakong. Kong. 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 Pant pant, it's just an ordinary pickaxe, the miner said awkwardly after repeating the swing of the pickaxe many times and only obtaining 1 iron ore. The miners who saw it were agitated. Then he is good at mining. We shouldn't judge people by their appearance. Anyway, it's time for us to leave. Let's head down. The miners ignored me and left the mine. They didn't apologize for their mistake or acknowledge my skills. Anyway, I started the full-scale mining work. It's really easy. The 100% understanding corrected my pickaxe swinging posture and accurately pinpointed the position I needed to hit. It felt like I could gather 200-300 iron ores. But that confidence only lasted a short moment. I became exhausted after a while. The act of hitting a wall in a semi-enclosed space consumed more stamina than chopping firewood. Pant pant, this damned. My breathing worsened when I obtained the 26th iron ore. My waist and arms started twitching. My level -3 body was screaming at me to take a break. But I couldn't rest. It was because my desire to raise my level quickly was greater than my desire to rest. After adjusting my breathing, I straightened my posture and swung the pickaxe again. Kong. Kakang. Ugh. By the time I extracted the 41st iron ore, the sensations from my wrist and waist started to disappear. Sweat poured like rain down my body. My legs weakened by I persisted in swinging the pickaxe. I couldn't see the sky when I raised my head, only the stifling ceiling. I wanted to rest. But I wanted to earn money by learning how to make items quickly. My hands trembled as I moved my pickaxe. Kakang. Kajajak. Pant, pant, ah, I'm dying. Once it was the 59th piece of iron ore, my vision became blurry from fatigue. My muscles screamed. My shaking hands couldn't hold the pickaxe tightly. I soothed my hunger with bread and water and persisted. This was my limit. Right now, I wanted to throw the pickaxe in my hand away. But I actually gripped the pickaxe tighter. I won't give up because of this. My job is labor. Uraat. Kakang. Kakang. Kakakong. I was debt-ridden because of the game, I was a loser in reality. One day, I heard from a friend that my high school alumni ignored me and ridiculed me. It was bitter because I knew that the friend who delivered the news had acted the same as the alumni. My friends from the army and university? I hadn't been in touch with them for a long time. I was contacted 4 months ago by an army buddy. He was working for a multi-level, pyramid scheme, company and was willing to offer me a job. It was easy to see who disregarded me. I didn't bother speaking to them to change their opinion. If I told them that I was crazy about a game, they would just look at me like I was pathetic. I was so embarrassed about my pathetic self that I couldn't go to the second reunion. However, it was the only way to meet my first love. Ahayung, so I attended an alumni meeting when I was on vacation from the army. There was nothing pleasing about what happened. I was only able to forget about reality and find stability when I logged into Satisfy. But that was a while ago. Now, Satisfy was no different from the real world. Even the NPCs were ignoring me. This wasn't the real world. I needed to grow as quickly as possible. I would raise my level, earn money, and escape my debt. Then I would become a ranker. Then, like cats not long ago, I would be interviewed on TV. I was Pygma's descendant. The epic classes that made 2 billion users astonished? They were nothing in front of the legendary class. I will show the world. Kong. I must succeed. Due to the debt, I was doing labor work every day. Then I would tell all those who ignored me. I wouldn't ignore the abuse again. In fact, you lot weren't that great either. My pickaxe moved again. My persistence stat steadily grew. As I became more and more familiar with the mining technique, the speed that the durability decreased slowed. Before I knew it, the bright morning sun shone. The miners who came to work were amazed to see me. Did that guy work all night? Unlike how he looks, he has enormous stamina. No, how is his mental state still fine? What an amazing guy. Heok. Look at the amount of iron ore. Has he broken Smith's record? Aish, how can he break Smith's record? I honestly admit that he is doing well, but, hey, hasn't his mining skill improved overnight? During that day, I fell into a critical state several times and minimized the amount of time spent mining. I experienced dangerous situations and almost died several times while mining, but was able to pass the crisis and got 170 iron ore by lunchtime. Despite it being less than my target of 200 iron ores, I couldn't continue any longer because my water ran out. Stagger. Stagger, stagger. The miners watched as I left the mine with barely any strength left. This person, great. I have to admit it. I apologize for what I said yesterday and for ignoring you. Please forgive me for my rudeness. You will surely be a great miner. No, with this great spirit, you will succeed in whatever you want to do. The miners who ignored me yesterday now acknowledged me. Being acknowledged by someone, it was a valuable experience that I only had a few times in my life. I was proud, even if the other people were NPCs. I descended the mountain with lighter steps. Overnight, my persistence stat had risen to 16 points. My stamina also rose, so I was able to descend the mountain without becoming tired. I dragged the heavy sack of iron ores towards the smithy. It felt like the gazes of the villages had significantly changed. The miners had spread my story through the village. I'm sorry for yesterday, miner. The kid from yesterday had a complete 180-degree change in attitude as he apologized to me. His father also smiled at me. My level was still minus. However, the attitude of the miners and people who ignored me suddenly changed in a day. It seemed that the easily acknowledged characteristic of my title was applied. I feel good. The world of Satisfy, which had grown similar to reality after I became a minus level, now felt like a haven again. I smiled and gave the boy a light pat. Shortly afterwards, I arrived at the smithy. He already heard. Smith had a stunned expression as I handed him the bag containing 170 iron ore. How is it? Can you still call me a newbie? Haha, Smith checked the number and condition of the iron ores, then shook his head with a thrilled expression. No, you're a great person, not a newbie. You have great talent and will grow to be a great person by overcoming any hardships. Smith asked me for a handshake. Someone like you dreaming of becoming a blacksmith, all blacksmiths on the continent will rejoice. Thank you for giving me the glory of teaching you. I willingly shook hands with Smith. Smith smiled warmly and continued, "You were very good. You also broke my mining record, which no one else has done. I will give you twice the promised reward." There was a notification information me of the quest's success, then the rewards started coming in. Reputation in Barren Village has increased by 200. 1 silver has been acquired. Affinity with Smith has risen to 60. Your level has risen. You are now level 1. Your stats, which were fixed to a minimum due to the minus level penalty, have been restored to their normal state. The basic stats of Pygma's descendant have been applied. Finally. This is the start. Chapter 16. These were phrases that made my heart pound in anticipation. Dugun dugun. My heart was beating so fast, it found like the sound was coming up to my ears. I was extremely excited and hurriedly opened the status window. Level 1, 45/100. Asterisk all equipment items can be worn unconditionally. However, there will be a penalty depending on the rating of the item. Health, 280/280 mana, 75/75. Strength, 20 plus 5 stamina, 18 agility, 12 intelligence, 25. Dexterity, 50 persistence, 16. Composure, 10 indomitable, 11 dignity, 10 insight, 10. Stat points, 40. Weight, 3,035/820. A dream. Was it a dream? I didn't panic. If I were in reality, I would have pinched myself. However, I just calmly logged out of the game. I lay in the capsule in my room and stared for a few moments. I was sleeping without knowing it. This was a good possibility because I didn't have the capsule switched to sleep mode. I went to the bathroom to resolve my bodily needs. Poured cold water over my head, and returned to the capsule. I logged in again. Just like in my dream, I was standing in the smithy. Was it not a dream? No, I shouldn't anticipate anything. If an unlucky person like me started expecting things, the wounds on my heart would also grow. I opened the status window without any inspiration and literally froze. An amazing jackpot. There were no changes to the contents of the status window. It wasn't a dream. My heart started beating quickly again. The basic stats of a level 1 character were 6 strength, 7 stamina, 4 agility, and 5 intelligence. In other words, the total number of stats for a level 1 character was 22 points. However, the basic stats of Pygma's descendant added up to 165 points in total. In addition, there were the 16 points in persistence that I grew as well as 1 point in indomitable, making a huge total of 182 points. Using simple calculations, my stats were higher than level 15 users, which meant that I had an overwhelming advantage. I realized the greatness of a legendary profession. Besides, these are just the basic stats, but I paid attention to the extra 40 stat points I had. Why was I given stat points? Stat points were increased by 10 points every time someone gained a level, so I should have 0 points at level 1. Therefore, I pondered upon the reason why I was given 40 points. There were many theories, but there was only one hypothesis that was persuasive. Perhaps, are stat points obtained every time you level up, even at the minus level. I was level -3 and leveled up 4 times in order to reach level 1. This was the only reason I could think of for the 40 stat points. I rubbed my eyes, but the 40 stat points didn't disappear. I was so thrilled that I started shaking. My experience in the minus level wasn't in vain. All of my struggles were meaningful. Maybe I wasn't as unlucky as I thought was. Kook. Kookuk. Was there a language in this world that could express this joy? I could only laugh. Puhahahahat. The sound of my laughter was proportional to my joy. The people in the smithy left as I laughed so loudly that my belly hurt. However, I just couldn't stop. After a while, he keek. Puha. Erg. Smith stared at me as I laughed through the pain and raised his thumb. This is a hero's excited laugh. You are such an outstanding figure that I don't know how I mistook your identity yesterday. My vision was lacking. I am ashamed and embarrassed. I laughed like a madman, but he still saw me as a hero. This meant that Smith's affinity with me was at the maximum. While it was true that I had escaped from the minus level, raised my affinity with 2 quests, and earned a reputation in barren village of over 200, Smith's attitude towards me was still overly flattering. Even if my title has the attribute of being easily acknowledged. I met Smith's eyes, causing him to lower his gaze. This was the attitude of a student in the presence of his master. Is this the effect of the dignity stat? It's only at 10 points at the moment, but is it already having an effect? It was possible, considering that Smith's level wasn't very high. It might be different with high-ranking NPCs. However, dignity seems to have an effect on normal NPCs, even with the number of points in it isn't high. I never imagined that his attitude would change so much in a day. It was an excitement beyond my current excitement. First, let's calm down. Let's calm down and try to figure out how the stat points work. I worried about it for a moment. Over the past few days, hadn't I acted in an impromptu manner without thinking deeply? Now that the situation was getting better, I needed to be more cautious. It felt like numerous threads were tangled in front of me that could be ruined. With my rash behavior, I already have a lot of stats at level 1, so there is absolutely no reason to distribute my stat points hastily. I thought about the most important thing to me right now. It was money. Yes, money. I needed to make enough money in order to pay for the carriage to move between villages. Smith flinched as I suddenly shouted. I cut straight to the point. Didn't I say it when I first visited your smithy? I want to make and sell high-demand items that will make me as much profit as possible. What is the most appropriate item? Smith pointed to a place where arrows were displayed. This one. An arrow. Unlike other equipment, arrows were consumables, so the price of it was naturally cheaper. No matter how profitable it was, if the sale price was low, it meant that I had to sell a lot of volume. My spirit deflated. Smith read my expression and explained. This isn't an ordinary arrow. It is a special arrow made by mixing a small amount of Jaffa with steel, allowing it to ignore some of the enemy's defense and cause damage. Ignore defense. For archers who participated in the Guardian of the Forest rays, these arrows were essential. No, even if it were for players not participating in the raid, the demand would be high considering there were many golems living in the Grey Forest. Jaffa. Smith saw that I was interested and brought out a light purple mineral from the warehouse. Jaffa is a mineral with a low oxygen content, making it easy to smelt, and is remarkably superior to iron. Its weakness is its durability and strength, making it unsuitable to create weapons with Jaffa. However, when mixed with steel, the durability increases and the penetration power is maximized. It is normal for cavalry troops to be armed with Jaffa-tipped spears. It must be expensive. It is 2 gold per kilogram. Even top-tier iron ore is just cheap stone in front of Jaffa. Expensive. Then, how can you produce dozens of Jaffa arrows? No, it isn't expensive. Only a small amount of Jaffa is needed to create the arrow. The production cost of a single Jaffa arrow is 3 silver, but the sales price is fixed at 6 silver. It is double the profit. In addition, this village has a high demand for Jaffa arrows. How about it? Do you want to learn how to make it? If this were yesterday, I would have nodded since I could gain a quick understanding through the appraisal skill. But I wasn't the same. After receiving a recommendation for a suitable item, I needed to learn how to make it myself. Show me the arrow for a moment. Smith handed me the arrow and I used the appraisal skill. Jaffa arrow. Attack power, 2026. An arrow made by mixing a small amount of Jaffa with steel. Due to the effect of combining Jaffa with steel, it has extremely high penetration and ignores some of the enemy's defense. Weight, 0.1. You have grasped the Jaffa arrow's material composition, production method, and intentions of its creator. Your understanding of the Jaffa arrow is now at 89%. You will be able to use the Jaffa arrow skillfully. Unfortunately, I couldn't reach 100% understanding after using appraisal on the Jaffa arrow. Therefore, the production method wasn't added. This arrow. Smith looked at me staring at the arrow and asked again. Do you want to learn how to make the Jaffa arrow? If I use the item disassembly skill, I might be able to raise the remaining 11%. But one arrow is 6 silver. I would need to pay 6 silver if I wanted to disassemble it. I couldn't afford that type of luxury. It isn't too bad to learn how to make it on my own. I nodded in agreement. I will learn how to make it. Smith was happy. I thought so. First, shall we learn how to smelt the mineral? Smith began with the structure of the old furnace commonly used by all blacksmiths in Satisfy, explaining in detail the elements necessary for the smelting process and the principles behind the process. Blacksmith jargon and chemical terms sometimes popped up, but I didn't feel confused. While Satisfy pursued realism, it was still a game. So the barrier wasn't set high in order to allow more people to enjoy it. The blacksmith knowledge required by Satisfy was as easy to understand as the other classes. In addition, I came prepared. I had been unable to connect after receiving a penalty for dying twice in one day, so I used the spare time to research blacksmithing. Smith's lecture wasn't much different from the smelting method I read about. Thus, it was easier to understand. I realized the effect of preparation and review. It was fortunate that one of my friends from middle school had taught me the preparation and review method. But that guy wasn't able to escape the second place ranking all through high school. He was a pitiful guy who maintained his second rank in high school, never being able to cross the wall of a classmate who claimed to only study in class. On the day the results of the second semester final examinations were released, I was able to understand the feelings of my friend who stood on the rooftop and yelled, "Why did a genius have to be born in the same year as me?" There were many talented people that I could never catch up to, no matter how hard I tried. But now things are different. I got a legendary class. This time, I would be the outstanding person. I would achieve as much as possible. Chapter 17. I smiled as Smith finished the lecture. Is it difficult to understand with just words? If so, then I will demonstrate it for you. Smith poured in a certain ratio of iron, coke, and limestone before starting the blast furnace. The fuel coke, not the drink/drug. As Smith's face and upper body became soaked with sweat, he controlled the hot wind coming from the bottom of the furnace and started burning the coke. At this point, the iron ore was gradually turned into molten iron due to Smith's reduction interactions. The limestone reacted by separating the iron and into impurities to form slag. Smith alternated between filtering out the slag and maintaining the heat. The black debris gradually disappeared through holes at the bottom of the furnace, while the molten iron became increasingly orange. When the iron solidified, it would become pig iron. Pig iron was very hard and brittle because it contained a lot of carbon. It wasn't suitable for the crafting of weapons. In order to make it suitable for weaponsmithing, it was necessary to reduce the carbon content through a Process called steel making. Smith, who was quietly immersed in his task, asked, "Do you understand what smelting is now?" I nodded and Smith sent me a satisfied expression. "Now that you've seen it, Jaffa is easy to smelt. The Jaffa ores have fewer impurities and a lower melting point, making it easier to refine than iron ore. The ratio of Jaffa to coke to limestone is 12:2:4. Mineral smelting. Mineral smelting is the basis of production. Smith gives this job to you, who is dreaming of becoming a blacksmith. Quest clear conditions, succeed in smelting the Jaffa ore. Quest reward, affinity with Smith plus 30, experience plus 80, 300 G of smelted Jaffa. Quest failure, it isn't easy to perfectly smelt minerals in the beginning. Smith will understand if you fail. There was no reason to refuse. I accepted the quest. Smith prepared the furnace for me and added, "Don't be bothered if you fail. It might have looked easy as you watched me smelt it, but in reality, it's actually quite hard." I placed the ingredients in the furnace and put my feet on the bellows. At that moment, a translucent arrow appeared and pointed to one side of the bellows. Is this the class compensation effect? I placed my foot exactly where the arrow pointed. The arrow pointed in another direction, where I aimed the bellows at. The arrow repeatedly blinked, giving me the appropriate tempo. In the end, I managed to heat up the furnace in 5 minutes, unlike Smith who barely managed it in 10 minutes. Then a notification window popped up. You can sense the temperature due to the rapid changes in ambient temperature: 30 degrees, 31 degrees, 31.5 degrees, 32. The strange, yet unwelcome voice was heard in my mind. Pygma's descendant is sensitive to changes in temperature. If there is a furnace in the vicinity, you can accurately measure the temperature inside the furnace. I placed my hand over the furnace. 700 degrees, 720 degrees, 740. The constantly rising temperature was displayed in the continuously updating notification window. 1,000 degrees. Iron ore was said to be suitable for smelting between temperatures of 1,150 1,250 degrees Celsius, but Jaffa was suitable at around 950 1,000 degrees. As soon as the notification window read 1000 degrees, I no longer needed to put effort into increasing the temperature. The Jaffa slowly melted down. Compared to iron ore, Jaffa had a lower concentration of impurities, so its orange glow was strong from the beginning. I immersed myself in filtering out the impurities. The translucent arrow told me the direction to move the metal pipes, so I was able to do it more quickly and accurately than Smith. Smith, who was concerned about whether I was doing well or not, became shocked as he checked my work. Heok. Cough. Cough cough. Smith was so surprised that he had trouble breathing. After a while, Smith barely regained stability and asked me in a trembling voice, "How are you so skilled at smelting?" His complexion was so pale that I was worried the old man might fall down. "Do you have experience smelting?" "This wasn't your first time." "It is my first time smelting." Smith looked like he saw a ghost. "Huh, it is really ridiculous. This is a talent that can't be represented. A person with no experience is better than his teacher. It's like I'm dreaming." "Are you the reincarnation of Pygma?" The term reincarnation of Pygma was the common term of praise for especially talented blacksmiths. It was usually the best praise. Any blacksmith would explode with joy if they heard that they were Pygma's reincarnation. However, I was different. I'm not a reincarnation, but a descendant. In the meantime, the high-purity molten Jaffa was completed. Quest success. Smith smiled warmly and said, "Absolutely wonderful. You are a great friend." Affinity with Smith has risen by 30. Experience has risen by 80. Good. Level 2. There was no greater joy than an easy level up. At one time, I was level 80. Now I was delighted at just reaching level 2. I was very worried about what would happen when my level reached the double digits. Bring it here. Smith poured the molten Jaffa into the molten iron, mixing the two metals at a ratio of 1:12. Of course, this meant that for every single part of Jaffa, there were 12 parts of iron. Smith placed the mixture in the furnace and started to heat it up again. He didn't forget to mix it together. He mixed it a total of 6 times before finishing the process by pouring the molten solution into a mold that he had prepared. We would have to wait 40 minutes for the molten solution to harden inside the mold. Meanwhile, Smith handed me some Jaffa that had already been completed. This is the first time you've smelted metal, so I will give this to you as a memento. 3 pieces of Jaffa have been acquired. One piece of Jaffa weighed around 700 grams to 1 kilogram. 300 grams of Jaffa were worth 1 gold, so it was a considerable reward for an E-grade quest. Smith, this person is really great. I was liking this blacksmith more and more. Smith approached with a big hammer and started hitting the mold that the molten solution was poured into. In the mold, the hardened molten iron appeared in the shape of a thick wire. Smith picked up the wire and placed it to one side, where there was another, smaller mold. He placed the wire on the mold and started hammering. After that was done, he used a grindstone to sharpen the edge. After some careful work, a typical arrowhead with a sharp end was completed. Although it was thick and heavy, the end was very sharp and could penetrate armor with no difficulty. The completed Jaffa arrowhead was then secured to a pre-created arrow shaft. I watched the whole process from beginning to end, then a new notification window popped up. Your understanding of the Jaffa arrow is now at 100%. You will be able to use the Jaffa arrow perfectly. You have learned how to make the Jaffa arrow. Smith asked me, how is it? Can you make it? Smith laughed heartily, answering without hesitation. What great confidence! Like any weapon, particularly in arrows, balance is important. You need to balance the feathers, the arrowhead, and the shaft. If the arrows are even a little bit out of balance, they won't be able to fly as far as they can possibly go. It is very delicate work. Even so, can you really make it? Despite only watching the production process once. I can do it. Then I will trust you again. Create a Jaffa arrow. Difficulty, D. The process of mixing two metals is never easy. It requires delicacy to make an arrow. For this reason, it is hard for novice blacksmiths to create a Jaffa arrow. But Smith trusts you and leaves you with the expensive materials. Quest clear conditions, produce 100 Jaffa arrows. Quest reward, affinity with Smith max, experience plus 300, 50 Jaffa arrows. Quest failure, Smith's disappointment. Asterisk if the client is disappointed, you won't be assigned any new missions for a period of time. Smith supported me by giving me 100 completed shafts and 1 kilogram of Jaffa. I could also freely use the iron ore. This was all thanks to my incredibly high affinity with the blacksmith. If it were the previous me, I would have just accepted these materials. I appreciate the courtesy, but I will make the shafts myself. I returned the 100 arrow shafts, but Smith couldn't understand my actions. Why bother? If it is because you feel burdened, there is no need to worry. Tisk tisk, so this was why he was just a beginner blacksmith. Are you going to support me with the shafts every time I make an arrow? No, I can't. Oh, so you will use this opportunity to learn how to make the shafts properly. That's right. If possible, please support me with the materials required to make the shaft. Smith shrugged and gave me some sturdy branches and good quality feathers. I was so focused on the smelting and making of the arrowhead that I didn't tell you how to make the shaft. I'll teach you how to make the shaft now. There were limits to how much a beginner blacksmith could teach me. I told him I would take care of it and pulled out a thick booklet from my inventory. The title was List of Items Production Methods. When I opened the book, I saw that 4 things were listed in the table of contents. They were the production methods of an axe, a pickaxe, the Jaffa arrow, and failure. It might be empty and simple now, but there will a day when this list of items production methods book will be filled up. I opened the page on how to make a Jaffa arrow and read it. The method of making the shaft was described in detail, complete with pictures and text. I read it and read it again for a while before closing the book. Okay, I can do it. I was a little tense since it was my first time making an item. No, I was more excited than tense. I started making the arrow shaft. First of all, I straightened the branches into a straight line. The badly bent branches were lightly seared and then straightened. I cut the branches to a regular length and cut the top, a U-shaped groove where the arrow would be placed against the bowstring of the shaft. Then I finished by pasting on feathers. 1, 2, 3. As the number of completed shafts increased, my proficiency steadily grew. It was a great effect as it combined my high dexterity that enabled delicate work with the correction effect of my class. Smith once again felt admiration as he watched. This isn't the workmanship of a novice. You figured out the production method just by looking at the finished shaft? You truly have the eyes of a craftsman. The dexterity and accuracy are also excellent. I was able to finish 100 shafts without difficulty before I started making the arrowheads. Chapter 18. I melted iron ore and Jaffa together, mixing them in the right proportions. Then, I poured the molten iron into the mold. Then, after 40 minutes, I pounded it into the shape of a wire. I poured a bucket of water on the wire. Cheek. A loud sound was heard as the scorching wire cooled rapidly. Quenching. This process increased the hardness and strength of the metal. Smith seemed disappointed for the first time. You even know about quenching? Yes. I have studied various production methods. I am a person who is always prepared. I don't know what you studied, but is this the limit of self-study? Why are you using quenching when making the arrowhead? I'm not sure if you know, but if you quench the metal, it becomes harder and less durable. The moment the arrow strikes the enemy, instead of piercing the enemy, the arrowhead might break in the enemy's armor. That was right, but I had a special plan. I'll also use tempering. Tempering involved reheating the quenched metal and then gradually lowering it in order to decrease the metal's brittleness. It was adding a flourish to the production method, which could strengthen the metal in the end. However, it would take a lot of time to do all of this. It was labor that I didn't like. Smith frowned as he felt the same way. Do you intend to make the arrows all night? I don't know why you would spend so much time making the arrows. Those who buy arrows consider them as a one-off consumable, so why are you so devoted to making the consumable item? Why? The reason for increasing the amount of labor was simple. I replied while reheating the quenched wire and hammering at it. If I make it a bit better, I can sell it for a more expensive price. Smith understood once he heard my words and no longer interfered. I made the arrowheads by repeatedly quenching, forging, and tempering. How much time passed by? I was tired and sore, but the heat from the smithy was even more painful. My awkward hammering skills steadily improved over time. Your dexterity has risen. My growing stats really made everything feel worthwhile. I was willing to do anything to raise my stats. Damn it. It was labor in the game. But it was also fun. I will become addicted to labor one day. Would a day come when I enjoyed labor in reality as well? It was a big deal. I might end up with osteoporosis in my later years of life. Tang. Tang. I complained but still immersed myself in the actions. The wire was slowly converted into an arrowhead as my hammering and my skills became more sophisticated. Whew. Whew. I took short breaths. My arms were numb and my skin was hot, but I endured it. My concentration increased as my stamina fell. The legendary blacksmith's patience skill has been activated. Concentration, stamina, and defense will rise to the extremes for 1 hour. Suddenly, the weariness in my body disappeared and I felt refreshed. This was similar to the vigor I felt whenever I ate cereal with milk. Ah! I alternated between the hammer and metals, producing the arrowheads. The effect of my increased concentration was noticeable in the arrowheads. It might have been because I made it myself, but the arrowheads were really beautiful. I was happy. Sweating in front of the fire gave me a sense of fulfillment. This isn't mere labor. Rather, it is akin to art. In reality, I had no talent, so I felt no pleasure no matter what I did. I had to work my guts off just to fall behind. But now I had talent. It was a talent that could only be shown in Satisfy, but it was enough. A harmony with the hammer. It was a moment when I felt stability and contentment. The legendary blacksmith's breath has increased the effectiveness of your production items. Legendary blacksmith's breath. When you are concentrating on making an item, the will of Pygma's descendant will fill the production item. All stats of a production item will increase by 5%. There is a rare chance of giving special features to your production items. Then 100 arrows were completed. Special Jaffa arrow. Attack power, 3542. An arrow made by a craftsman with great skill and potential but lacking in experience and reputation. Asterisk has a certain chance of ignoring the enemy's defense. An epic rated item was produced, so all stats have permanently risen by +4 and reputation throughout the continent has risen by +80. Affinity with Smith has risen to the maximum. Experience has risen by 300. There was no time to rejoice over the quest's success and my level up. Epic rated arrow. Weren't arrows unconditionally a normal rating? I've never heard of an epic rated arrow. I was filled with an indescribable sense of emptiness. Epic rated consumables. An epic rating appeared when I created arrows. If it was a costly item like a sword or armor, then I would have made a big profit. But arrows were cheap and considered consumables, so the profit of an epic rated arrow was limited. I was overcome with bad emotions. Damn it. He should have told me to make either sword or armor. I started to hate Smith, who recommended the Jaffa arrow. When I looked at the arrow I made, the short feeling of admiration turned into anger. You haven't gone through an apprenticeship yet, you are already making something so great. Ideal arrows. This is the first time that I've considered an arrow to be beautiful. You are definitely Pygma's reincarnation. AHH. You must be tired of my surprise by now. You are great. Amazing. Wonderful. I regained my spirit at Smith's words. Yes, the first item I made had an epic rating. I didn't even fail. This fact was enough for me to rejoice and be thankful. As a result of making the epic rated items, all of my stats increased by 4 and my reputation increased. In addition, the performance of the arrows was amazing. Were there any existing arrows whose attack power exceeded 40? Plus, there was a special option. One arrow is better than a level 20 hand weapon. Arrows were less profitable than other equipment items due to their nature, but this great performance meant that I would definitely get some money. I was a little confused because something bigger than I planned emerged. I had the legendary Blacksmith's craftsmanship skill. Due to the effect, the abilities of all my items increased by 10%. In other words, the basic attack power of a Jaffa arrow was 20-26, but the ones I created would be 22-28. From a buyer's point of view, they would rather buy the Jaffa arrows from me rather than the general Jaffa arrows. But they would be reluctant to pay more. Why? It didn't make sense to pay more money just for a slight increase in attack power. So I used quenching, forging, and tempering as a way to maximize the effects of my skill. I expected that a fairly good arrow would emerge from a 10% increase in performance plus a more elaborate production process. Then the finished arrows had a better performance than my expectations due to the breath skill. I made Jaffa arrows that had 15 more attack power than existing Jaffa arrows, and it also had the option of completely ignoring the enemy's defense. A high-level user would purchase the Jaffa arrows I made, no matter how expensive they were. It was well worth it. The superior stats and skills possessed by Pygma's descendant. The 40 stat points obtained through the minus levels. My stats also increased from making epic rated items. Finally, the arrows that could be sold at an expensive price. I could be certain that today was the best day of my life. It is better than my birthday. Besides, there was only my little sister who remembered my birthday. It was annoying to hear on my birthday things like "Are you sitting alone at home again," or "Don't you have any friends?" This year, I should say those words on my sister's birthday. Therefore, it was natural to be 100 times happier today compared to my embarrassing and lonely birthdays. Smith watched me laughing like a madman and handed over the 100 completed Jaffa arrows. "I originally promised you half of this, but I can't take such wonderful things. I want you to take all of them." The effect of maximum affinity. Wasn't this a beautiful favor? My heart thumped. Smith seemed just like my grandfather, so I couldn't help embracing him. "You have shown me great kindness. It was a short meeting, but I will never forget you." Tears dripped from Smith's eyes as he hugged me. "Are you leaving already? That's too bad. We might meet again someday if we're lucky." "I don't want you to leave." Smith glanced at me with a flushed face. Like a male peacock opening its colorful tail feathers to seduce a female, he tried to attract me using hammers, tongs, and the solid muscles of his upper body. This man, he had the smell of a widower, so he must have been alone for a long time. Maybe he was so lonely that he became gay after his affinity towards me reached the maximum. No, he might have been gay from the beginning. His dignity decreased in front of his affection. I straightened and let go. "Then I'm going now." I grabbed the 100 epic arrows and hurriedly moved away. However, due to the 100% reduction in movement speed, I couldn't leave the blacksmith quickly. Smith approached me and hugged me from behind. "I can see that you also don't want to separate from me. You are thinking of me in that passionate heart of yours. I'm reluctant to give up this affection. I won't forget you until the day I lay in my coffin. No, I will think of you, even in my coffin." This damn person. Stop speaking such terrible words. Just like with Doran, the excess weight caused a misunderstanding again. I barely got away from Smith, made a vow to sell my arrows, find a warehouse, and move to another village as soon as possible. Chapter 19. The lead party of the Tzedakah Guild moved along the main road and barely managed to finish the Guardian of the Forest raid after 3 days. Kurururung. The Guardian of the Forest, who was covered with minerals, fell down with a thunderous boom. Some party members were frightened by the sound and fell down, making them unable to resist the attacks of the golems. Help me. Those who fell into a panic couldn't feel the pleasure of a successful raid. The face of Jishaka, the leader of the party, didn't look good as She searched through the remains of the guardian of the forest. Idiots, what were you paying attention to? Jishika had already thoroughly lectured the party members about the precautions and strategies before confronting the guardian of the forest. But that hard work was for nothing, as nobody followed it save for a few of her guild members. Therefore, it was frustrating for her. I'd rather die than live with the judgment and learning ability of a monkey. The guild's reputation would become worse because of the party members' deaths. Che. Despite her disapproval, she was the genius who saved the lives of her party members with every pull of her bowstring. The first ranked person on the archer rankings. The party was barely able to escape the crisis thanks to the activities of the martial artist Regis, the twin axe-wielding Vantner and the other members of the Tzedakah Guild. But the damage was severe. A total of 75 people were killed. There were 4 guild members among the list of deceased. Unlike the other fools who died from stupidity, they were killed in battle against the guardian of the forest. But it is over. It was a really tough battle. The guardian of the forest was armed with superior defense, high health, and AoE skills that kept the party's main members occupied. Meanwhile, it constantly summoned golems that put pressure on the other party members. Without the overwhelming actions of Jishika and Regis, the raid would have 100% failed. Jishika checked the items dropped by the guardian of the forest and was unable to hide her disappointment. The other party members also sighed. They had fought against the guardian of the forest and the golems for 2 days, and when the guardian was finally defeated, they were disturbed by new golems. The loot was tacky compared to such suffering. 30 iron ores, 7 orichalcum ores, and 1 blue orichalcum ore. Regis shrugged. The amethyst shield didn't emerge again this time. The Tzedakah Guild constantly challenged the guardian of the forest raid once every 2 weeks in order to get the amethyst shield. But the drop rate was the worst. The difficulty of an S-grade quest is beyond one's imagination. Even though they were the same S-grade quests, the difference between a single quest and linked quests was like the difference between heaven and earth. Vantner picked up the blue orichalcum and said, "Fortunately, we received this blue orichalcum. Orichalcum is a mineral born with the power of moonlight and the guardian of the forest. It is impossible to erode the guardian of the forest's magic power, but it has the best hardness and strength among all minerals. It is lightweight and becomes much stronger in the darkness. Advanced blacksmith skills are required to smelt it. Wait, 3. The value couldn't be determined at the present time, but it would become an expensive commodity once an advanced blacksmith appeared." Jishika was filled with disappointment as she returned to the village with her exhausted party members. The party members who died had resurrected and were waiting in the square. Toban converted the value of the minerals into money by dividing it according to the market price, then distributed it to the party members. They barely avoided a deficit. There were no complaints from the guild members, but the general users complained about the small compensation. But what could they do? This was the result. Jishika disbanded the party and gathered the guild members. Then she spoke with a serious expression. "This is already the 4th raid without any success. Rumors are spreading among the general users that there is no value in participating in the Guardian of the Forest raid. In the next raid, the level of the participating users will be even lower. This is difficult." The Tzedakah Guild was composed of the top rankers. But their reputation was low, which was why they were a small guild. The 17 members of the Tzedakah Guild had been together before Satisfy, since the days of the L.T.S game. It was impossible for them to challenge the Guardian of the Forest raid with their strength alone. Therefore, they attracted general users. But that wouldn't continue to work. Toban, the level 172 paladin and the guild's chief of staff, nodded. "I need the amethyst shield for a linked quest, But it can't be helped. For the time being, we have to give up on the guardian of the forest. Raid and try to strengthen the guild's power. Vantner, the second-ranked person on the Guardian Knight rankings, wasn't armed with a shield despite choosing a defensive class. He instead chose to wield twin axes. That's right. It's useless in this state, so we can't be impatient. Let's leave the Guardian of the Forest raid for a while and increase our quality. When she looked at the faces of the guild members, they all seemed to have the same opinion. Only Regis' eyes were shining like lanterns. He was clearly thinking anything is good as long as I can fight. Jishika thought about it and declared, "We will give up on the raid for the next 3 months. In the meantime, we will improve our level and equipment. If we gain 15 levels in the next 3 months, can't we kill that guy? Regis, you should gain 20 levels." Jishika laughed brightly. Her half-moon eyes were sexy, however, they were considered horrifying to the guild members. Their leader was scary. If they didn't fulfill the goal, they really would experience hell. The guild members, who knew better than anyone how fierce Jishika was, gulped, and Regis cried out in a trembling voice, "Let's go train." Thus, the Tzedaka guild discreetly dispersed. Jishika headed to the guild warehouse alone. The South American's unique beauty and curvy body attracted the attention of males. She was a famous ranker, so the crowd around her increased. But she ignored them. Jishika left the blue orichalcum in the warehouse and headed to the auction house without worrying about being followed or not. The blue orichalcum was an item that could be sold at a later date, but not now. For the moment, the iron ore and orichalcum would sell for the best price. Jishika registered the minerals before looking through the auction house. "Show me the list of Jaffa arrows." A transparent screen appeared in front of Jishika. The list of Jaffa arrows currently registered at the auction house appeared on the screen. The immediate purchase price for the Jaffa arrows was 6 silver. It was an incredibly expensive price for one arrow, but she couldn't see any other arrows after using it. Jishika swept up all the arrows on the list. She didn't care about money. She invested the money obtained from being a top ranker and pinpointed exactly where she should use it. Jishika confirmed the bid price for the Jaffa arrows at the bottom of the list and frowned. It was the only one without an immediate purchase price set. There was also a total of 99 bids, with the top bid at 18 silver. Jishika wondered why some madman would bid 3 times the price of a Jaffa arrow, but then she noticed that the name of the arrows was purple, not white. Did I see it incorrectly? She blinked, but it was still purple. She hurriedly checked the details. An arrow made by a craftsman with great skills and potential but lacking in experience and reputation. Jishika's eyes widened. If she didn't know that people were paying attention to her, she would have screamed wildly. Unbelievable. Jishika was surprised beyond amazement. She had played Satisfy all day for the past 6 months and had adventured with all types of people. She collected as much information as possible by using money and her guild members. Nevertheless, she never imagined that an epic rated arrow would ever exist. She was convinced that arrows were unconditionally normal rated items. She went to famous blacksmiths with various materials and asked them to make arrows, but all of the arrows born from their hands were normal rated. She had never heard of or ever witnessed a higher rated arrow until this moment. Epic arrows, not rare, appeared in front of her. In addition, the performance was fraudulent. Jishika bid on it right away. The bid price was a huge 35 silver. It was difficult to judge if the arrows were worth it considering they were consumables, but she needed to consider its scarcity. She also believed it could be used as a secret weapon when meeting a strong opponent. Who is the person who made this? She thought of 2 people first. The first and second ranked blacksmiths, Panmir and Steng. However, they didn't fit the explanation that the blacksmith lacks skill and reputation because both of them had a high reputation. A blacksmith who surpasses them is hiding. It was probably a blacksmith who put a lot into their skill level, but their character level was low as a result and as such didn't enter the top rankings. The explanation of great skill and potential strongly enticed her. If I find them. Jishika cancelled the registration of the Black Iron and Orichalcum. Thanks to the Guardian of the Forest raid, I have steadily gathered minerals. She planned to use the best minerals as bait for the blacksmith who made the epic rated arrows. Contact all the users in the top 100 blacksmith rankings and measure their skill level. Make a short list of those whose skill levels are high compared to their character level. Jishika's command appeared in the guild chat window and upset the guild members. What are you suddenly saying? Contacting blacksmiths out of nowhere. We need to level up. Jishika dismissed the opposition. Shut up. There is a greatly skilled person hiding. If we find them and make them join the guild, the Guardian of the Forest raid won't be a problem. Are they that skilled? This blacksmith is better than Panmir and Steng. The performance of the items they produce is likely to exceed the existing items. So far, they haven't surfaced, so no one is aware of this blacksmith, but that is no longer the case. All guilds on the continent will be frantically trying to find the blacksmith. We can't lose them. Find them. Find the blacksmith before anyone else. If Master says so. This blacksmith must be huge. Okay, let's find them. As a rule, the Tzedaka Guild didn't accept new guild members. They were a small number of elites who only recognized and relied on each other since the L.T.S days. Their small number was a constraint and the growth of their guild was slow, but no one complained. They couldn't occupy castles like large guilds, but anyone would fear their power. They might not have as much reputation as large guilds, but they displayed their authority with their force. The Tzedaka Guild members occupied the top 3 rankings of each class in the 6 months since starting Satisfy, so they were confident and proud. The 17 members whose strength would make them the top in their country, it was the first time they were interested in another person since the L.T.S days. Someone raised the bid price again. Jishika received the notification that her bid on the special Jaffa arrows failed and didn't hesitate to bid again. The first epic rated arrows. The bidding price skyrocketed. Part 2 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.